Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about lists and item means list. So this could be like list view, grid view, column, row, or whatever other widgets that you can think of that you can actually put lists or items inside those widgets. And the idea here behind it is that when someone actually it's updating the list or some variable in the list, it will actually update on the dynamically. And this is actually done easily or by default when you're using Firebase or Upstate. But when you're using API calls or Superbase, for example, those values are actually will not be updated on the fly or dynamically. And this video is actually if you are using Superbase or API call, this is a video for you, and this is how you can do it, or at least this is how I did it. So in my example, I actually have a list or I have a grid view, and that doesn't look pretty. But yeah, I'm not a UI UX designer. But my idea is that I have a grid view and I have this like icon over here, and when someone press on the like icon, it will actually increase the number. So right now it's 7, but it will increase to 8. And this will be done dynamically, and the value will be updated dynamically. So, like I said, if you're using Superbase or API calls, or if you're using something other than Firebase or Upstate, this is the video for you. And before we begin, before we continue, actually, or before I show you how I did it, let me actually show you a working demo first. Okay, so let me actually show you a working demo. And before I show you the working demo, I just want to tell you that I'm going to show you the working demo about my website, which is Flow Quests. And if you don't know anything about it, I actually launched a few weeks ago. I launched this Flow Quest, which are live shows that I do in my channel, and I'm actually trying to figure out how you can do something in Flow. So, for example, one of the latest episodes was episode 4, I think, and in the latest one of the latest episodes, you can actually see that I was able to implement Google Drive using Flow. And I'm very proud of the website, how the website turned out, and you have the story, and you can listen to the story, you can view uh, the videos, and so on and so forth. But what I tried to implement yesterday was, and I'm actually using Superbase for the backend of this website. I'm switching to Superbase for a couple of reasons. I'm not going to mention that in this video right now, but I have this upcoming, which is this design will be changed in the future. But I have these upcoming episodes. So if you click on it, those will be the upcoming episodes that you see, and those are actually coming to. So I have two versions actually. This is like the normal, so to say, version, which is like setting up the list view like by default without even thinking about it. And I have, like I said, two versions. So this is the version that I first tried, and of course it will not work. And this is the second, and this is actually the working version when I click on upcoming. And the idea is that those are upcoming, like from users. Users actually post those in my Discord channel or in YouTube or even in my live shows. And if I think that something is worth enough to look into it, I actually save them. I make a screenshot from them of them, and then you can actually see it over here. Who posted, what he or she was asking for, and then I decided it would be actually a great idea to let people vote for what they like to see in the future in my live Fiddleful quests. What quests or what topics do they want me to actually show them how they can do in Fiddleful? And this is exactly my idea, and I have a few of them over here. And the idea here is that I have a like button, which is a heart. And if you press the heart, it should actually update this value, right? So right now I have 7 hearts for this particular item, which was actually posted by AWS. So if I click on it, it is actually no, it's sorry, it was not posted by AWS. It is actually posted by anonymous YouTuber 007, and you can actually see his nickname over here. AWS is actually the title of the quest, and he's asking for AWS integration with Furflow. And if you really like this, you should be able to vote for it. So if I switch to my Superbase, I have very simple Superbase setup. I have the ID created by, which are default fields, and I have the title, and I have the idea by, so this is the nicknames, and I have the votes, and I have the image. So the image is actually coming from Superbase itself. I stored the image in Superbase, and I was surprised that I didn't have any issues storing the images in Superbase. But if I store them in Google Drive, for example, and try to get the direct link, I get a cross-reference errors for some reason. But with Superbase, it is actually working out of the box, which is amazing. And then what I wanted to show you is that, for example, if we go to the first one, which is AWS, you can actually see that right now, currently, there are 7 votes up. And if I switch over here, and now are 7, and watch what will happen. If I click, this is the non-working version. So if I click over here, the number did not change. But if I go back to Superbase, you can actually see that this number changed, and now it's 8. So my idea is that I wanted to make, of course, the number to change as well, because right now it's 7, but in reality it's 8. So if I refresh this page, for example, and wait a little bit, and see the same AWS, you can actually see right now it's 8, because it's updated the number, it's updated the value, it's updated, but you cannot see it on the fly. So how you can, or dynamically, so how you can actually implement this. But before I show you how you can implement this, let me actually show you a working version of it. So I show you a non-working version of it, but let me actually show you a working version of it. So in this case particular, I will show you the same thing, which is AWS have 8 votes. And if I click, so let me just go back over here, you can actually see in the database it has 8 votes. But if I click right now, it should change to 9. And I click, and you can actually see it changed to 9 votes or 9 likes. And if I go to the database, you can actually see that there are 9 likes as well. And this is actually working great. And if I go, for example, in this scroll to a specific location, and if I switch over here, and you can actually see that's the ID with 11, scroll to a specific location. Right now, currently it has 0, but if I switch over here and like it, and now it's 1, you can actually see it's changed to 1. And if I go over here, you can actually see scroll to specific location, it's 1. So let me actually show you how I built this now. Okay, so let me switch to Fireflow, sorry, and let me show you how I did it. So first of all, let me show you the non-working version, and the reason for that I want to do that is because I want to show you how it is like most people will set it up, and what are the mistakes that people are the normal users are actually doing, or the beginners errors. So I have actually, it's a very simple, this is the page that I have. It's a very simple page. I only have this grid view, and then I have the colon, which I can actually delete, to be honest. I can remove the widget. I don't need this colon. Sorry, I didn't need, yeah, I didn't need the colon, but, and I have this component. So the component is actually only one component. And if I go, and it says copy because this is the non-working version, I will delete it later. And I'm actually passing a few things. So I'm passing the image, I'm passing the who created, what was the idea by, who was the idea, how many votes they have, and what is the title of it, and what is the ID of it. And if I switch to the component, and again, this is actually a copy because I will delete it later. How did I set it up? So the first thing that you think is, of course, I put, so everything is coming actually from the component parameters, and I put it in the title, for example, and I put it who created, and I put it the votes, which is great. And then I have an action. So my action over here is that when someone clicks on this icon button, it will actually update the rows, and it will actually match. So this is very important to have a filter that will match the ID. That's why I'm passing the ID as well, and it will match the ID. This will be equal to the ID. And then if those RDs are the same, what I'm doing is actually I have a code expression. It's very simple code expression. I'm just getting the votes as a string, and then I should convert them to an integer, and then add one to it. And I should do that because I'm actually using a string. But if I were using an integer, I can do this out of the box with FlowFlow. There is a function, or there isn't a drop down. There is like increase or decrease, and I can just write one, and it will be increased by one. But because I'm using it in string, that's why I had to do it with a code expression. But it's up to you guys. I just decided to use it as a string. I think there is no reason for that. I think I'm just saving it as a string. But like I said, it's up to you. So this is how I'm doing it. And currently this will work. Like I said, this will work. This will actually update the value in Superbase. The reason and the problem, actually, and the issue that I have is that this value will not update. And the reason for that is that this value is actually passed when this component is initialized, and that's why this value will actually never change. No matter what you do, it will never change. The only way you can change this value is actually to update the page or to update the component. Without that, the component will actually not change and the value will actually not change. But how you can actually change it, and let me show you actually now the working version. Uh, so this is now the working version, and you can actually see that it says upcoming quests, and this again the component. This again a component. It's the same component, and you have the grid view again. And this is actually querying. I'm actually querying the database. And if I go to the query, I haven't shown you that, but you can actually see it. It's upcoming quest list of rows, and I'm actually getting all the rows from this list of rows. Great. And then I have my component, which is upcoming quests. And what is the difference between those two? So the first of all, the component parameters are actually the same. The different thing is that I have right now a local component state variable. And the local component state variable is actually a string again, and those are votes states. I call them vote states because this is coming. The votes are actually be shown from the local component and not from the parameter. And this is actually changed as well. The votes are actually coming now, and they're going to be shown, like I said, from the component state and not from and not from the parameter like we did it before. And default value, they want us to put a default value would be 1, but it might be 0 as well. Great. So what about filling the default, the local component state variable? Because the local component state variable right now will be empty, but we don't want it to be empty. So that's why we actually go into the scaffold widget, which is the first widget on the left side. Then we click on the actions and we open the action flow, and we have only one action. And the action that we have is to set up this this component value equals to the parameter one. So we can imagine that if this is an empty local component state, value will be vote states will be empty. Then every time we're initializing, and it says here on initialization. So every time we're actually initializing those components, we're actually going to put the value of the votes. So this will actually show us the current and the current votes. And then, so we are done with that. So in this part over here, we are done, and we have the votes that will be showing will be the current one and will be the working one from the database. But now, how we can actually update the value. So to update the value, we have here an action, and this time we have two actions. So the first action is actually to update the row, and again we have upcoming quests. We have to first match the row that we want to update, which is the ID, and this is coming from the page parameter, and this is the ID. And then we are updating the votes, and again I'm doing it with a code expression. I just show you the code expression. It's actually the same code expression in the parse votes plus 1. I'm parsing this because it's a string. I'm parsing it to integer, and then I'm adding plus 1 to it, and this is how I'm doing it. And then the second thing is this is the most important part probably, and it's update widget state. This is actually a component state, and I have this vote state, and I have this set value, and I'm actually using the same strategy. It's a little bit different strategy. It's a little bit different code expression. The reason for that is that I have to parse it first to integer, then I have to add 1 to this integer. But because we want to return a string, then I have to wrap everything like that, and then I have to put that equal that to string. And this will actually convert the integer, because this will actually return an integer, but we don't want an integer, we want a string, and it's just to string. And this should work, because you can actually see I have no errors over here. And this is actually how you do it. This is how I did it. And it's very important, and that's why I really love app state or widget states or component states variables, because using those you can actually get the functionality, for example, of Firebase. So everything will be dynamic this way. It's not that hard. Let me just show you, and let me just tell you. So first of all, you have to wrap your items inside components. This is very important. This is the first step. The second step is to create a component state variable for every single dynamic field that you want. For example, in my case, the title or the image or the who created are not dynamic, so that's why I don't care about them. I only create it for the votes, because the votes are the one single thing that is dynamic. Then the third step is on the component initialization. You have to actually get the actual value, and this can come from the component parameters from over here. And then the final step is when you actually change the value, In my case, I'm increasing the value by 1, and I'm saving it in the database. And then the final step is to actually update the component state variable and increase it by 1 as well. And it will dynamically increase. And you saw in the demo that it's working for me fine. So this is actually, and like I said, this is great for Superbase. And when you are getting the data from API code like JSON, or I think data types as well, if your data types are not coming from Upstate. So like I said, everything that it's not from Upstate, widget state, or component, or everything that is not coming from Firebase, because Firebase is actually updating dynamically on the fly. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I see you probably in the next video. But before you go, I just want to let you know that I set up a Discord channel, which will be for my 3,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for everyone who subscribed to the channel. The Discord channel will be officially announced when I reach the 3,000 subscribers. Um, it is well structured. It will be well structured with the general tab, which you can see the info, the news, and we will have also click to talk, so you can actually talk to other members of the channel. And we have the YouTube videos as well, where you can see all the YouTube videos. You can also have, if you want to, if you want to request a video, you can go to video requests, and then we have the paid members from YouTube, which they have a separate channel where they can talk. I also have from the mentoring sessions, we have the paid members. And then it's structured by backend, Flow API calls, Superbase, SQLite. And then you have the design, where you can ask design questions. We have the custom code, which is code expressions, custom functions, custom widgets, custom actions. And for the Flow source code, we can talk about the Flow source code as well. And we have integrations as well, pub dev packages, platforms, if you want to integrate different platforms. We have the general integrations. And then we have, you don't see it from my face, but we have also the settings. We have the dynamic links, we have the push notifications, we have the app settings, we have the Android deployment, we have the iOS deployment, and we have the web deployment. And the last thing that we have is actually we have the languages, and we have other languages. So we have like Swedish, for example, Spanish, Portuguese, other languages that people from those countries or those languages can talk in their own language. So yeah, like I said, thank you very much for all the subscribers. And before you go, I just want to say that the paid membership for YouTube is now open. So you can be a paid member to my YouTube channel, which means a lot. And thank you very much for all the people who are right now paid members to the channel.